What about Manny Pacquiao, Floyd?
What about him? Hopefully, Manny Pacquiao.
Shoot yourself in the foot. There's probably no better phrase to describe these famous black stars. Instead of shining like the bright stars they are, they've managed to tarnish their images in the most unbelievable ways. They should have known how to carry themselves under the spotlight, how to act with the grace expected of them. But no, they chose paths of self-destruction no one could have foreseen. From causing chaos on live television to brawling with colleagues and even jaw-dropping verbal missteps, the drama unfolded right before millions of viewers. And the result? Their careers crumbled in an instant. What exactly did they do to turn the world against them? Let's dive in and uncover the full story. Point 1. Samuel L. Jackson, the rage that shook the world, a single mistake that toppled a legendary career. No one could have imagined that an innocent question on live television would trigger such a disastrous storm. During a live interview on KTLA Morning News, Samuel L. Jackson, the iconic Hollywood actor, lost his temper when he was mistaken for Lawrence Fishburne. It was a catastrophic moment when anchor Sam Rubin cluelessly asked, "Can you share a bit about your Super Bowl commercial?" Everything exploded instantly. Jackson, unable to contain his anger, snapped, "It's highly unprofessional to confuse me with Lawrence Fishburne. I'm Samuel L. Jackson. Not every black actor looks alike." Jackson's rage was not just frustration, it was a powerful outburst fueled by years of enduring discrimination and disregard from a Hollywood that he had tirelessly fought to carve his place in. Imagine spending decades building a stellar career, from Pulp Fiction to Avengers, only to be mistaken for someone else simply because of the color of your skin. This wasn't just a shock to the TV show, it marked a breaking point in Jackson's faith in the industry. But the consequences of his anger were far worse than anyone could have expected. Jackson's fury quickly spread across headlines, dominating media coverage for days. His heated remarks left the show in crisis and shattered his public image. All the respect and accomplishments he had amassed in his career were suddenly undermined like a sandcastle swept away by the tide. From a beloved star, Jackson became a lightning rod for controversy. Digging deeper, it became clear that his actions were rooted in profound personal struggles. Decades in the film industry had left him with scars both from systemic racism and from battling personal demons like addiction and stress. Despite his relentless efforts to overcome these challenges, one mistaken identity seemed to erase an entire lifetime of achievement. Jackson's rage wasn't just a momentary reaction, it was a final declaration. In a world that constantly marginalizes people like him, he would not tolerate even the slightest insult. Tragically, his justified outrage became the catalyst for a dramatic unraveling of his career. Even after Sam Rubin's public apology, the damage caused by this catastrophic mix-up couldn't be undone. 2. Kanye West, the storm at the awards, stealing Taylor Swift's moment of glory. The 2009 MTV Video Music Awards should have been a triumphant night for Taylor Swift. At just 19, she stepped onto the stage to accept the Best Female Video Award for You Belong With Me. But as she stood there, radiating pure joy, her moment was stolen, quite literally, by Kanye West. Out of nowhere, Kanye stormed the stage, snatching the microphone from Taylor's hands, leaving the audience in stunned silence. "Taylor, I'm really happy for you, and I'm gonna let you finish," Kanye declared, his voice brimming with confidence and defiance. But Beyoncé had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time. The room froze in disbelief. Taylor, visibly shaken, stood speechless, while Kanye casually walked off, leaving a wave of fury and chaos in his wake. The fallout from that moment was devastating. Kanye faced a torrent of backlash from fans, peers, and even then President Barack Obama, who famously called him a jackass. The incident forced Kanye to retreat from the spotlight, reflecting on the steep price he paid for his impulsiveness. What drove Kanye to act so recklessly? Part of it was his unpredictable nature, but underlying it all was a deeply wounded soul. Having lost his father early in life and raised by a single mother who instilled in him a fierce sense of pride and individuality, Kanye always spoke his mind, regardless of the consequences. After his mother's sudden death in 2007, his emotional stability unraveled, leaving him unable to hold back when he perceived injustice. Kanye's actions weren't just a defense of Beyoncé, they were a rebellion against the relentless competition and unfairness of the music industry. But in doing so, he not only hurt Taylor but also overshadowed Beyoncé's rightful moment. The 2009 VMA scandal cemented Kanye's reputation as a polarizing figure, unapologetically himself, but at a cost far too great. 3. Cardi B, explosive showdown at Harper's Bazaar Icons, a glamorous party turned battle zone. The Harper's Bazaar Icons party in 2018 was meant to be a dazzling evening at the Plaza Hotel, but instead, it became the stage for utter chaos. Cardi B, dressed in a fiery red gown, stormed in with a burning intensity. Her target? Nicki Minaj, her fiercest rival, who was rumored to have insulted Cardi's daughter, Culture. For Cardi, this wasn't just a petty feud, it was a direct attack on her family. As Cardi approached Nicki, the room seemed to freeze. "Don't you dare talk about my daughter!" Cardi screamed, breaking the tense silence. Nicki, seated calmly, shot back a cold, defiant look. That single glance ignited the explosion. Cardi lunged at Nicki, unleashing her fury in a chaotic scene. A red stiletto flew through the air, aimed at Nicki, as security scrambled to intervene. When the dust settled, Cardi was escorted out, a bruised forehead and a ripped gown marking the aftermath of her outburst. After the incident, Cardi's career faced a significant threat as she became the focus of worldwide criticism. Although she was already known for her bold personality, never before had her image appeared as tarnished and vulnerable as it did now. Major brands began to withdraw, advertising contracts were canceled, and a relentless wave of public backlash continued to grow. Cardi B, who had always taken pride in her fearless attitude, now had to confront a harsh reality. Her actions had placed both her career and her reputation in a precarious, high-stakes position. Why did Cardi react so explosively? Her troubled past held the answers. Born in the Bronx, she had clawed her way to success, enduring countless hardships along the way. For Cardi, family was sacred, and any attack on it was an unforgivable offense. Her actions, while extreme, were driven by a primal instinct to protect what mattered most. Even as she left the party battered and bruised, Cardi's bold defiance became a symbol of her unyielding spirit, unapologetically raw, unafraid to fight, no matter the consequences. 4. Muhammad Ali, the fiery clash on live television. In January 1974, on Howard Cosell's famous talk show Wide World of Sports, two boxing legends, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, turned the studio into a tense battleground. Instead of promoting their upcoming rematch, Super Fight 2, they engaged in an unprecedented physical altercation, shattering all norms of television decorum at the time. From the very first moment, the air was thick with hostility. Ali, in his signature flamboyant style, began with sharp taunts. "Frazier isn't worthy of being champion. He got lucky because I was unjustly stripped of my title." Frazier, unshaken, responded coldly, "You lost to me in the ring, and that doesn't change the truth." But Ali didn't stop there. He mocked Frazier as an ugly, country bumpkin, attacking both his character and appearance. Tensions escalated when Ali suddenly stood up, pointed his finger directly at Frazier, and shouted, "Prove it right here, if you dare." Frazier, never one to back down, stepped up to confront him. In an instant, the two lunged at each other. Chairs toppled, shouts echoed, and punches flew, turning the talk show into an unprecedented scene of chaos. Host Howard Cosell struggled in vain to intervene, while the production crew panicked as the situation spiraled out of control. It took several long minutes and the intervention of security to separate the two fighters, but the shockwaves of this clash spread across the globe. The aftermath was more than just an embarrassing live television moment. The altercation immediately became front-page news, subjecting both fighters to intense public scrutiny. Ali, already under heavy criticism for his controversial political views, now faced additional backlash for his reckless behavior. Frazier, known for his calm demeanor, was also criticized for losing his composure, tarnishing his reputation. Major sponsors expressed caution, with some commercial deals hanging in the balance. Few understood the deeper roots of this conflict, stemming from their personal wounds. Ali, who had lost his title for refusing to serve in the Vietnam War, constantly fought to prove himself not only in boxing but also in the political and social arena. Frazier, having grown up in poverty and endured racial discrimination, carried a fierce pride that refused to let him be demeaned by anyone. Ali's verbal jabs hit a nerve, pushing Frazier's simmering resentment into an uncontrollable storm. This wasn't just a chaotic moment, it etched an enduring image of two legends, embodying unyielding spirit while reflecting the complex struggles of their lives. 5. Mike Tyson, the rage that shocked the world. In 1999, when legendary boxer Mike Tyson walked into the studio of UPN 9, no one could have predicted that the interview would turn into a televised nightmare. What was intended to be a promotional appearance for his upcoming fight spiraled completely out of control as Tyson succumbed to the pressure of provocative questions. Initially, everything seemed normal. The host began with lighthearted questions about Tyson's illustrious boxing career. But the atmosphere quickly shifted when the conversation turned to sensitive topics: his criminal past, allegations of violence, and his troubled personal life. Tyson, visibly tense, tried to maintain his composure. But each question felt like a dagger to his pride, pushing the Iron Boxer to his breaking point. In a flash, the explosion came. Tyson leaned into the microphone, his voice booming like thunder, his eyes blazing with fury. He roared, "Do you even know what I've been through to stand here today? Who are you to talk about my life like you know me?" Profanities poured out like a torrent. Tyson not only lashed out at the host, but also threatened him live on air. The studio descended into chaos, with the production team scrambling to intervene. Eventually, the broadcast was abruptly cut short, ending the interview in dramatic fashion. The incident quickly became a media firestorm. Tyson faced heavy criticism, with his already controversial image further tarnished. Sponsors began to pull out, leaving a significant financial gap in his career. Yet behind this outburst lay a life scarred by profound pain. Tyson grew up in the violence and poverty of Brooklyn's main streets. With no father and a struggling mother, his childhood was a desperate fight for survival. The dazzling success of his boxing career was merely a facade, masking the deep fractures in his soul. The fame and fortune he earned left him vulnerable to losing control under immense pressure. The UPN 9 interview wasn't just an unfortunate incident, it exposed the darker struggles of a legend. Tyson, a man of unparalleled strength, was also someone who could crumble under the weight of his past and present. 6. Floyd Mayweather, the outburst of boxing's Money King. In 2009, Floyd Mayweather Jr., the most powerful name in boxing, unexpectedly found himself at the center of a media storm after a heated confrontation with Brian Kinney on SportsCenter. What should have been a friendly conversation devolved into a fiery verbal battle, leaving viewers in disbelief. It all began when Kinney, with his characteristic confidence, boldly referred to Mayweather as a former number one in boxing, hinting that Manny Pacquiao might have overtaken him in fans' hearts. Mayweather immediately retorted, his tone dripping with authority, "Former number one? I've never lost a fight in my life. You have no right to say I'm not still at the top." Kinney pressed on, questioning rumors that Mayweather was dodging Pacquiao and other top contenders. At this, Mayweather's temper flared. Leaning towards Kinney, his eyes sharp and his voice defiant, he said, "What do you know about boxing? You sit here criticizing, but have you ever stepped into the ring? Don't talk about things you don't understand." The tension reached its peak as Kinney pushed further, "So how will you prove it? What about Pacquiao?" Furious, Mayweather shot back, "I don't have to prove anything to you or anyone else. I've made hundreds of millions without losing a single fight. Pacquiao needs to get on my level, not the other way around." The interview, lasting less than 10 minutes, was suffocatingly intense. When it ended, both Mayweather and Kinney left the studio in icy silence, leaving viewers stunned. The incident quickly dominated headlines. Mayweather was criticized for his arrogance and hostility, though many believed Kinney had deliberately provoked him for attention. Regardless, the interview underscored one thing: Floyd Mayweather was not only an undefeated boxer, but also a man unafraid to defend his legacy, even against the world. For someone who grew up amid poverty and domestic violence, boxing wasn't just a profession, but a source of pride, a testament to his resilience. Mayweather's defiance reflected the immense pressure he faced daily. While criticisms couldn't easily break him, they revealed the immense burden of expectations he carried. 7. Portia Williams, the historic fury that pulled down Queen Kenya Moore on live television. In 2014, the Season 6 reunion of The Real Housewives of Atlanta became a defining moment in reality TV history, erupting with a shocking incident no one saw coming. Amidst the glitzy decor, all eyes were on Portia Williams and Kenya Moore, two women who barely hid their mutual disdain. But what started as a tense exchange soon escalated into an unforgettable spectacle that left cast and viewers alike in stunned silence. Kenya entered the set wielding a scepter and wearing a crown, proclaiming herself the queen of the show, all while hurling sharp-edged jabs at Portia. From mocking Portia's failed marriage to insinuating she was nothing special, Kenya relentlessly attacked with words as sharp as knives. Portia sat tensely on her chair, her eyes blazing, but she struggled to keep her composure. The breaking point came when Kenya delivered the dagger, "You are nothing but a cheap woman." The simmering volcano inside Portia finally erupted. She leapt from her seat and charged toward Kenya like a storm unleashed. To everyone's astonishment, she grabbed Kenya's hair and yanked, dragging the self-proclaimed queen to the ground. Chaos ensued. Shouts echoed from all directions as Andy Cohen, the host, rushed to intervene, but the intensity of emotions overpowered him. Kenya lay on the floor, her expression frozen in shock, while Portia, breathing heavily, her eyes ablaze, stood over her. Cameras captured every second of the scene, a moment both horrifying and impossible to look away from. The incident sparked immediate public outrage. Portia faced criticism for resorting to violence and was forced to leave the set. While some fans sympathized with her, arguing Kenya had crossed the line, the hair-pulling incident forever altered Portia's image and marked a dark chapter in the Real Housewives of Atlanta's history. But Portia's actions were not just an impulsive reaction. They were the culmination of deep-seated pressures, a bitter divorce, Kenya's constant taunts, and the lingering pain of a broken childhood. Forced to fight for her dignity under the blinding spotlight, Portia made a statement: even at great personal cost, she would not allow herself to be humiliated, no matter the consequences. 8. Will Smith, the slap that burned the 2022 Oscars. The 2022 Oscars should have been a night of applause and artistic tributes, but it was overshadowed by an explosive moment no one could have predicted. Will Smith, a globally beloved actor, suddenly shattered his polished image with an impulsive act that stunned the world. It all began with what seemed like an innocuous joke by Chris Rock. Standing under the dazzling stage lights, Chris looked at Jada Pinkett Smith and quipped, "Jada, I love you, but I can't wait for G.I. Jane 2. A seemingly simple remark, yet it struck a raw nerve for Jada, who had publicly battled alopecia. The camera quickly panned to Jada, her expression a silent indictment of hurt and disappointment. Will, initially forcing a smile, quickly shifted gears. Like a volcano triggered, he rose from his seat, his steps heavy with purpose. What the audience thought might be a staged gag turned into a seismic shock when Will's open palm met Chris Rock's face with a resounding slap. Chris staggered, and the room fell into stunned silence. "Keep my wife's name out your fing mouth," Will shouted as he returned to his seat, his voice laced with fury. The tension was palpable. Chris, though visibly shaken, maintained his composure, swallowing the shock in real time on a global broadcast. The fallout was swift. Will's triumph as Best Actor later that night was overshadowed by his outburst. He was banned from attending the Oscars for a decade, and his public apology couldn't quell the uproar. A once iconic figure, Will Smith was now a symbol of uncontrolled emotions. The slap tarnished his legacy, showing how even the brightest stars can dim in an instant. But beneath the surface of that slap lay years of pent-up turmoil. It wasn't just about a joke. It was the culmination of relentless pressures, his tumultuous marriage with Jada, endless public scrutiny of her entanglements, and a traumatic childhood witnessing domestic violence. The Oscars incident became a public reckoning for Will, exposing the heavy toll of fame and unhealed scars. 9. Sharon Osbourne, tears and collapse after a shocking showdown. In March 2021, a single moment of live television unraveled over a decade of Sharon Osbourne's career. During a fateful episode of The Talk, Sharon, known for her forthright demeanor and steely resolve, was thrust into a relentless controversy that spiraled out of control. It began with Sharon defending her friend, Piers Morgan, after his controversial remarks about Meghan Markle following her bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey. Sharon's stance on Morgan's right to free speech, however, immediately drew criticism, putting her in the crosshairs of a divisive debate. The situation reached a boiling point on the March 10th episode. Cheryl Underwood, Sharon's co-host, directly questioned her by defending Piers. "Do you condone his racially charged comments?" Sharon, visibly angry and emotional, shot back, "Don't you dare call me a racist. I am not." The exchange escalated rapidly. Cheryl, calm yet piercing, pressed further, "Do you understand how this could hurt the black community?" Sharon, on the verge of breaking down, shouted through her tears, "Tell me what I did wrong. If you can't, then don't label me." The sight of Sharon breaking down in tears on live TV shocked viewers. But while some sympathized with her, many criticized her reaction as an attempt to deflect accountability. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The Talk went on hiatus, and Sharon was forced to step down from the show, marking the end of her long tenure. The consequences weren't just professional, her reputation was left deeply scarred. Though she issued public apologies, Sharon became a lightning rod for judgment and controversy. Sharon's fiery reaction can be traced back to her troubled upbringing. Growing up in a violent household, she learned to fiercely defend herself and her loved ones. To her, standing by Piers was a matter of principle. But in a world where every word is scrutinized, Sharon became a casualty of her own candor. Once a symbol of resilience, she was now entangled in a whirlwind of societal change where even minor missteps could spell the end. 10. Ben Affleck, when a Hollywood star challenges the media and philosophy on Islam. That night in October 2014, on Real Time with Bill Maher, Ben Affleck wasn't the usual handsome actor people were used to seeing. He emerged as an unwavering warrior, standing in the middle of a fiery debate with Bill Maher and philosopher Sam Harris. Within minutes, what began as a philosophical discussion escalated into a heated argument that gripped global audiences. The argument ignited when Harris called Islam a collection of bad ideas. The statement was like a match to gasoline, immediately setting Ben Affleck off. He shot back without hesitation, "That's horrible. This is gross and racist. It's disgusting." Maher, ever sharp and unafraid of confrontation, countered, "Ben, it's not racist. We're criticizing ideas, not people." But Ben wouldn't back down. He pushed forward, insisting, "You're talking about over 1 billion people and lumping them all together because of their beliefs. This isn't free speech, it's prejudice and disrespect." Harris tried to clarify that he was only referring to a small group of extremists, but Ben didn't let up. With an impassioned tone, he argued, "We can't judge an entire community based on the actions of a small group. That's complete injustice." The verbal sparring was relentless. The atmosphere became more tense than ever, with none of the three willing to yield. Ben's fiery stance didn't come from a place of impulsiveness. He had grown up in a family that valued justice and equality, where he learned that no one should be judged based on their religion or skin color. As someone deeply involved in human rights activism, he understood how words like those from Maher and Harris could deeply wound. However, Ben's boldness came at a cost. The debate immediately sparked a wave of divided opinions. Some praised him as a hero standing up for truth, while others criticized him as rash, emotional, and uninformed. Regardless of the polarized views, one thing was clear: Ben Affleck wasn't just a Hollywood star. He was someone willing to stand against the world to defend his beliefs. For him, justice and compassion were always worth fighting for, even if it meant stepping into the storm's eye. 11. Vince McMahon, when the WWE Mogul lost his cool on live television. In 2001, Vince McMahon, the powerful man behind the WWE empire, set his sights on dominating not just wrestling but the world of football with the XFL. But instead of making history, the XFL quickly spiraled into failure, leading to a tense showdown between Vince and Bob Costas on the record. That night, Vince appeared with his usual confident demeanor. But within minutes, the studio atmosphere shifted from routine to suffocatingly tense. Bob Costas wasted no time targeting the XFL's failure. What do you think about the XFL being labeled a disaster after just one season? Would you call this the biggest mistake of your career? Vince, trying to contain his emotions, responded politely yet sharply, the XFL wasn't a failure. It was a bold innovation that many weren't ready for. But Costas wasn't backing off. He dug deeper, pointing to plummeting viewership, disastrous financial reports, and critical reviews. At this point, Vince snapped. He suddenly stood up, face red, eyes blazing as he glared at Costas. "Who are you to judge me? Do you have any idea how much sweat and effort I poured into the XFL?" When Costas tried to reply calmly, Vince stepped closer, pointing his finger directly at him. "I'm not here to sit through this nonsense. Watch your words." The studio froze. Crew members whispered nervously, while viewers at home couldn't believe what they were witnessing. This was no longer an interview, it had turned into a fiery confrontation, laying bare Vince McMahon's raw emotions and rage. The aftermath wasn't pretty. The incident immediately divided the media. Some admired Vince's passion and intensity, but most criticized his lack of professionalism, calling his behavior intimidating and even frightening. The XFL was officially discontinued, leaving Vince haunted by the memory of an unfinished dream for years. Still, this episode showed that Vince McMahon wasn't just a cold-hearted mogul but a deeply emotional individual fiercely defending his beliefs. Growing up in tough circumstances, Vince fought hard to prove himself. Accustomed to high expectations and allergic to failure, the criticism of the XFL cut deeply into his pride. The relentless scrutiny from the public only added to his volatility when pushed to the brink. But even the strongest warriors must learn to temper their emotions in the face of defeat. 12. Nicki Minaj, the electrifying confrontation at the 2015 MTV VMAs. The 2015 MTV VMAs, a highly anticipated Hollywood event, became the epicenter of a media storm. Not for the awards or dazzling performances, but for the moment Nicki Minaj, the fierce queen of hip-hop, publicly confronted Miley Cyrus on stage, a showdown no one saw coming. Amid the glitz, glam, and roaring applause, the room fell into an eerie silence when Miley Cyrus, acting as host, made pointed remarks about Nicki. Prior to the event, Miley had criticized Nicki for her comments on racial disparities in the music industry. That night, Miley remarked, "Nicki Minaj always loves drama. Maybe she should focus on her music instead." The statement was a spark. Nicki, known for her bluntness, stepped onto the stage with a piercing glare and delivered a sharp rebuke. "Miley, what's good? Who do you think you are to talk about me? Do you even understand what I've been through?" Before Miley could respond, Nicki pressed on, "You love making a spectacle for attention. I fight every day for my place here. Don't you dare speak about me unless you know the truth." The tension was palpable. Miley, trying to keep her composure, replied, "Nicki, I didn't mean any harm. It was just a joke." Nicki cut her off, retorting, "A joke? My career isn't a joke. Look at yourself before you judge me." The audience sat in stunned silence. Awkward glances and hushed whispers filled the room. That night, Nicki not only defended her reputation but also created a moment that would dominate conversations for weeks. Ultimately, both Nicki Minaj and Miley Cyrus faced backlash. Nicki was slammed for her lack of control, while Miley was criticized for disrespecting her peer. Sadly, few understood Nicki's perspective. For her, it was simply about protecting the values she had fought for her entire life. Growing up in a tough neighborhood, Nikki faced discrimination and immense pressure in the entertainment industry. She refused to let anyone diminish her worth, especially in public. While the confrontation overshadowed the awards show, it reminded everyone that in the ruthless world of entertainment, you must be ready to fight, even on the grandest stage. 13. Burt Reynolds and Mark Summers, a heated clash on live television. In 1994, during an episode of the iconic The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, millions of viewers were stunned by an unexpectedly fiery showdown between two seemingly unrelated personalities. Burt Reynolds, the legendary silver screen icon, and Mark Summers, the popular host of the children's show Double Dare. What began as harmless banter soon escalated into a tense battlefield on live television. The evening started like any other talk show. Jay Leno skillfully steered the conversation, Burt Reynolds sat poised and charismatic, and Mark Summers appeared friendly and approachable. But no one anticipated that a long-dormant topic, Burt's infamous divorce from actress Lonnie Anderson, would ignite such chaos. Mark Summers, with his seemingly harmless demeanor, inadvertently fanned the flames with a joke about Burt's failed marriage. Burt, no stranger to media jabs, couldn't hold back this time. His voice dropped, his gaze sharp as a knife. "Mark, I think you should focus on your own career instead of digging up other people's pasts." But Mark wasn't about to back down. "I'm just doing my job, Burt. If you're uncomfortable, maybe you should rethink how you handle these things," he retorted. The words were like gasoline on an open fire. Burt grabbed a glass of water and threw it at Mark. The studio audience froze. Mark, drenched but unyielding, immediately retaliated by hurling his own glass of water back at Burt. The scene devolved into chaos. Jay Leno, known for his quick wit and crisis management, stood helpless and visibly flustered. The incident spread like wildfire. Burt Reynolds faced intense backlash for his aggressive outburst, while Mark Summers was criticized for his lack of tact. Still, both received a surge of public attention, a commodity always coveted in show business. This clash not only exposed the immense pressure celebrities endure, but also prompted reflection on the cost of fame. For Burt Reynolds, it became an indelible blemish on his storied career. For Mark Summers, it served as a harsh lesson in respecting personal boundaries, even in moments that seem trivial. 14. Crispin Glover, the bizarre kick and its consequences on late night. July 1987 marked a stormy evening on Late Night with David Letterman when Crispin Glover, the star of Back to the Future, appeared on stage with an eccentricity that left the audience baffled. Sporting disheveled long hair and a wild stare, Glover's demeanor was nothing like the usual guests. But his strange aura was just the beginning of the shock to come. The interview started as usual, but no one expected Glover to dismantle every norm of late-night television. Instead of answering Letterman's standard questions, he offered cryptic responses, escalating the discomfort. The real bombshell dropped when Glover stood up, his expression cold, and delivered a sudden, powerful kick toward Letterman's desk. The studio trembled, and the show abruptly cut to commercial. The audience was left in stunned silence. Letterman, known for his masterful handling of live mishaps, appeared paralyzed by confusion. The incident became an instant controversy. Some believed Glover had crossed the line, while others argued his actions reflected the immense pressure stars face. Regardless, Glover etched an indelible mark on the public consciousness and media as a figure of inexplicable eccentricity. But what drove a rising star to act so erratically on live television? To understand, we must delve into Glover's past, a gifted artist who always felt like an outsider in Hollywood. Refusing to conform to the entertainment industry's standards, he despised how the media exploited personal details for cheap laughs. Gradually, he became isolated. His infamous kick on Late Night was his declaration of war against the oppressive expectations of Hollywood and the media. It wasn't meaningless rebellion, it was a powerful protest by an artist unwilling to be caged. 15. Charlie Sheen, The Strange Interview and a Psychological Collapse. On March 28, 2011, Charlie Sheen, a Hollywood A-lister, appeared on Good Morning America to discuss his life and career. But no one anticipated this interview would turn into a whirlwind of bizarre declarations. His claim, "I'm a warrior with tiger blood and Adonis DNA," shocked viewers, but was only the beginning of an eccentric tirade. Sheen continued to ramble about tiger blood and winning, leaving millions of viewers baffled. The interview triggered a public outcry. Major contracts abandoned him, and his once glittering career began to crumble. Yet, the interview was also a turning point for Sheen. It forced him to confront his mental health issues instead of maintaining the facade of an indestructible star. What had happened to Charlie Sheen, an A-list actor spewing peculiar, even delusional, statements? Behind the outbursts lay deep anguish and instability. As a famous star, Sheen lived a life riddled with inner turmoil that few could comprehend. Having grown up in the shadow of his father, Martin Sheen, he constantly battled to establish his identity. While his career soared, his personal life was marred by addiction, tumultuous relationships, and legal battles. Everything came to a head in 2011 when Sheen publicly feuded with Two and a Half Men creator Chuck Lorre. The fallout led to his dismissal from the show, accompanied by a slew of erratic actions and shocking remarks. Sheen not only lambasted Lorre, but also declared himself a divine storm, asserting that he would no longer tolerate Hollywood's pressures. The cumulative strain ultimately led to his public unraveling, cementing his reputation as a tragic figure. 16. Joan Rivers, the fiery meltdown and emotional collapse. What began as a seemingly ordinary day spiraled into chaos when Joan Rivers, the queen of comedy and candor, erupted in fury during a 2014 CNN interview. The segment, intended to promote her work, quickly turned into a combative exchange, leaving viewers and media outlets abuzz. When the interviewer broached the sensitive subject of Rivers wearing fur, the tension erupted. "What do you say to people who think wearing fur is cruel in today's world?" the interviewer asked, a question that landed like a bombshell. Rivers, previously criticized for her fondness for fur, exploded. "If they want to fight for animals, let them go to countries where people are being killed. Why should I be responsible for animals?" she shot back, her eyes blazing with anger. Finally, in a fit of rage, Rivers stood up and stormed off, leaving the interviewer and audience stunned. "I'm not here to answer stupid moral questions," she shouted before leaving. The incident became an instant media sensation. Rivers faced criticism for her outburst, and animal rights groups seized the opportunity to condemn her. However, many also sympathized with her fiery defense of personal freedom. This anger not only reflected the rebellion of a star, but also the despair of a woman constantly under societal attack. Joan Rivers lived in a world filled with criticism and competition. Her entire career was a series of public battles with the media and the public. But that day, when her personal freedom was challenged, she could no longer hold back. Fur coats were not just clothing, they were a symbol of the style and identity she had meticulously built over the years. And when criticized for it, Joan felt as though she had been shot in the heart. Joan Rivers had always fought fiercely to maintain her individuality, so she chose to respond with equal intensity. While many disagreed with her attitude, no one could deny that it was the defiant stand of a woman who refused to be subdued. 17. Tom Cruise, the love storm on Oprah's couch. A wild, passionate, and unbelievable moment made Tom Cruise the center of criticism and attention in 2005. During an episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show, Tom suddenly jumped onto the couch like an excited child and shouted that he loved Katie Holmes. That image instantly became a symbol of unrestrained enthusiasm and a shocking moment for everyone watching. For the first time in television history, audiences witnessed a top Hollywood star like Tom Cruise acting as if he had completely lost his composure, shedding the calm and collected demeanor of a major celebrity. The cost was significant. Public backlash erupted almost immediately. His once unshakable image began to waver, his career faced scrutiny, and every move he made was judged. While expressing his love, Tom may not have realized he was also eroding the idealized star image that so many admired. Some viewers thought he looked like a foolish boy doing something crazy for a woman. Others mocked him, saying love had dulled his intelligence. Yet, a few believed it was a beautiful display of genuine love. Behind this shocking act lies a longer story that not everyone knows. Tom had endured numerous struggles, particularly in his romantic relationships. His failed marriage to Nicole Kidman, issues with Scientology, and now a new love with Katie Holmes all played a role. Publicly declaring his love was a sign of inner conflict, a star trying to break free from the mold the public had set for him, proclaiming Katie as the woman who had reborn his life. 18. Andy Kaufman, the Wavemaker, a bloody clash with Jerry Lawler. That day, everything went completely off script in ways no one could have anticipated. Andy Kaufman, the renowned performer of psychological games and bizarre acts, stormed onto Late Night with David Letterman like a hurricane. Sitting across from Jerry Lawler, a fiery-tempered wrestler, Kaufman started the conversation lightly, but tension quickly escalated to an unbearable level. Kaufman began mocking Lawler's profession, calling him a weakling and accusing his matches of being staged. The audience couldn't believe what they were hearing. Kaufman continued to provoke Lawler until the situation spiraled out of control. Then it happened. Suddenly, Lawler, enraged, stood up and slapped Kaufman across the face, shocking everyone. Was this real or staged? The sharp slap rang out like a giant question mark, leaving everyone confused. Kaufman fell to the floor, wailing dramatically, yet no one could tell if it was all part of his elaborate game. The aftermath left both the audience and the entertainment world in chaos. It was one of the most shocking moments in Late Night with David Letterman's history, a point where reality and performance became indistinguishable. Kaufman might have crafted an unforgettable spectacle, but it came at the cost of public skepticism and backlash. This clash wasn't just a prank gone too far. It was a collision between two vastly different worlds, Kaufman's, where the line between reality and fiction blurred, and Lawler's, rooted in the raw intensity of wrestling. Kaufman's unpredictability was his way of challenging audiences and the media, who were always skeptical of his authenticity. For Lawler, however, this was an unbearable insult, and his reaction was purely instinctive. 19. Jim Everett, the shocking confrontation, when patience ran out. What seemed like an ordinary talk show turned into a historical clash on live television when Jim Rome, with his provocative hosting style, unintentionally sparked a legendary conflict. Known for his sharp wit and sarcastic remarks, Rome repeatedly called NFL quarterback Jim Everett Chris. At first, it might have seemed like a simple mistake, but for Everett, it felt like a slap in the face, a deep insult he could not tolerate. At first, Everett responded with a forced smile, trying to keep his composure. But with every misused name, the tension in him grew. Oblivious to the brewing storm, Rome called him Chris a third time. And then, in an uncontrollable moment, Everett stood up, shoved the table aside, and lunged at Rome. In a fit of anger, he grabbed Rome and shouted, "Don't call me Chris," before knocking him backward into his chair. After the altercation, public opinion was split. Some praised Everett for standing up to provocation, while others criticized his lack of restraint. Regardless, the incident became an unforgettable chapter in his career, leaving a lasting impression on viewers. For Everett, it was a harsh lesson in patience and a stark reminder that unresolved pain from the past can resurface and lead to explosive reactions. The name Chris was like a thorn piercing Everett's soul, bringing back memories of his career struggles. Despite being a talented quarterback, he was never fully recognized for his achievements. Years of criticism and setbacks had eroded his patience. Rome may not have understood that for Everett, this was more than just a joke. It was a profound insult, a painful reminder of the bitter years he had endured. 20. Bobcat Goldthwait, the devastating outburst that wrecked an entire set. In 1994, American television witnessed an unbelievable moment when Bobcat Goldthwait, a comedian known for his eccentric style, turned a taping of the Arsenio Hall show into a chaotic meltdown. Goldthwait appeared on stage looking calm and collected, but within him burned a silent rage. The news that his beloved The Arsenio Hall show was about to be canceled ignited his fury. To him, it wasn't just the end of a program, but a symbol of the injustices and instability within the entertainment industry that he had fought against his entire career. Just minutes into the interview, everything took a sudden turn. Goldthwait stood up abruptly, his eyes blazing, and shouted incomprehensible words. He rushed to the set, violently yanking the interview table, tossing chairs, and wreaking havoc on everything in sight. The stage became a battleground, and the audience sat frozen in disbelief. The incident instantly became a media frenzy, catapulting Goldthwait into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. His destructive actions drew a wave of criticism. Some saw it as the outburst of an artist pushed to his limits, while others condemned it as the reckless behavior of someone sabotaging their own career. After the chaos, the Arsenio Hall show was still canceled, leaving a void in its loyal fan base. As for Goldthwait, he struggled to regain his footing in the industry, and the set destruction incident became a stain that no one could forget. Few understood that Goldthwait, who had long endured ridicule and rejection, had accumulated deep frustrations over time. As an artist with a quirky style, he was often underestimated despite his significant contributions. To him, the Arsenio Hall show was a beacon of hope and support, and its cancellation felt like a direct blow to his fragile self-esteem. For Goldthwait, this act of rebellion was a desperate, final declaration of his pain, a cry to be heard and acknowledged. 21. Nicolas Cage, the chaotic rampage on Wogan that shook television. In 1990, Nicolas Cage stunned the audience of Wogan and the entire UK with an unhinged performance that no one could have predicted. From tossing money at the crowd to shadowboxing on live television, Cage turned what was supposed to be a routine interview into a scene of complete chaos. Dressed in a sharp suit, Cage initially dazzled viewers with his charm and confidence. But just a few minutes later, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Cage stood up, flinging bills into the audience as stunned onlookers alternated between laughter and confusion. Undeterred, Cage began executing wild martial arts moves, as if battling an invisible opponent. What started as curiosity from the crowd soon turned to concern as Cage's antics spiraled out of control. Host Terry Wogan, known for his calm demeanor, was visibly shocked by Cage's behavior. Cage not only broke the conventions of a typical interview but also offered a glimpse into the turmoil within him. The incident quickly became a media sensation, sparking widespread criticism. Producers grew wary of working with Cage, fearing a repeat of his unpredictable outbursts. As a result, his career faltered. But what lay behind this bizarre behavior? Few knew that Cage was grappling with immense pressure from his fame. As a member of a prestigious entertainment family, being the nephew of legendary director Francis Ford Coppola, Cage constantly struggled to step out of their shadow. Early successes only intensified his feelings of isolation in an industry that felt glamorous yet cold. That night, Cage rebelled, even if just for a fleeting moment, to free himself from the invisible burdens of his life. These 21 celebrities left the world stunned, losing everything before the eyes of millions during live broadcasts. These shocking moments and irreversible mistakes were witnessed by everyone. But after uncovering the reasons behind their actions, how many of you will sympathize with them? We're eager to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more shocking Hollywood stories.